Ukraine-Russia talks, Istanbul meeting confirmed by Zelenskyy, latest update. Imagine a world where diplomacy and dialogue could bring an end to the devastating conflict between Ukraine and Russia. But here's where it gets complicated. After months of bloodshed and destruction, the two nations are set to meet again in Turkey on Wednesday, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy confirming the talks. This highly anticipated meeting will be the third round of negotiations between the two combatants, following previous discussions in Istanbul on May 16 and June 2. The stakes are high, with the international community holding its breath as the clock ticks down on a 50-day deadline set by former President Donald Trump for a ceasefire to be reached. But will this latest round of talks yield any meaningful breakthroughs, or will it be just another exercise in diplomatic posturing? As the world waits with bated breath, let's take a closer look at what's at stake and what we can expect from these crucial negotiations. The upcoming talks will focus on several key issues, including prisoner swaps, the return of children abducted by Russia, and the possibility of a leaders' meeting between Zelenskyy and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Zelenskyy has made it clear that Ukraine's goals are straightforward: to secure the return of its citizens, put an end to the fighting, and find a path towards a lasting peace. However, Russia has been reluctant to commit to a ceasefire, with Putin citing the need to address various issues before the fighting can be paused. The White House has been pushing for an immediate ceasefire, with Trump threatening fresh sanctions and tariffs if Russia fails to comply. But Russia has so far dodged these demands, leaving many to wonder if a peaceful resolution is even possible. And this is the part most people miss: the complexities of the conflict run deep, with historical grievances, cultural differences, and geopolitical interests all playing a role. As the talks get underway, it's essential to understand that a ceasefire is just the first step towards a lasting peace. The real challenge lies in addressing the underlying issues that have driven the conflict, from territorial disputes to economic interests. But here's the thing: even if a ceasefire is reached, it's unlikely to be a permanent solution. The conflict has created deep-seated tensions and mistrust, which will take time, effort, and compromise to overcome. So, what can we expect from these talks? While expectations are low, with many experts predicting that Russia will use the negotiations to prolong its offensive operations, there is still a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, the two sides can find common ground and make progress towards a peaceful resolution. But as we wait for the outcome, one thing is clear: the international community must continue to push for a peaceful solution, using every tool at its disposal to bring an end to this devastating conflict. The question is, will Russia and Ukraine be able to put aside their differences and work towards a common goal, or will the conflict continue to escalate? The world is watching, and the clock is ticking. We want to hear from you. Do you think a peaceful resolution is possible, or are we destined for more conflict and bloodshed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Ukraine proposes peace summit with Zelenskyy, Putin, Trump, Erdogan. War's deadly stalemate: can a summer summit break the ice? Imagine a summer of unrelenting bloodshed in Ukraine, with no end in sight. This grim reality might just become the norm unless a proposed high-stakes meeting between four world leaders, Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelenskyy, Russia's Vladimir Putin, the United States' Donald Trump, and Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan, yields a miracle breakthrough. But here's where it gets controversial: can a single summit, suggested by Ukraine to take place by August's end, truly halt the war's devastating momentum? Against the backdrop of stalled Russia-Ukraine talks in Istanbul, this latest proposal emerges as a beacon of hope. Despite recent discussions failing to secure a ceasefire, both nations have agreed to exchange more prisoners, including, for the first time, civilian detainees. A glimmer of cooperation, or merely a token gesture? Ukrainian delegation head Rustem Umerov floated the idea of a four-way leadership meeting, aiming to capitalize on the international community's growing impatience with the conflict. However, Russia's Vladimir Medinsky tempered expectations, reiterating that substantial progress on the ground is a prerequisite for a Putin-Zelenskyy meetup. The elephant in the room: core demands and red lines. Russia's unyielding stance on key issues: an end to Ukraine's NATO ambitions, a significantly weakened Ukrainian military, and the formal cession of disputed territories, continues to hinder meaningful negotiations. Can these entrenched positions be reconciled, or will they forever block the path to peace? Meanwhile, President Trump's increasing frustration with Putin's actions has led to a significant shift in U.S. policy. A game-changer or empty threats, Trump's endorsement of U.S. weapons sales to Ukraine, coupled with the threat of severe economic penalties against Russia by early September, has sparked both hope and skepticism. Analysts weigh in, reading the tea leaves. Moscow observers suggest the Kremlin is cautious not to antagonize Trump, aware that the president's ire could swiftly pivot from Russia to Ukraine. Will this deterrent strategy pay off, or is it merely wishful thinking? As the international community holds its breath, one question lingers: can the proposed summer summit overcome the entrenched divisions and forge a lasting peace? We want to hear from you. Do you believe this high-stakes meeting can succeed where previous efforts have failed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Russia-Ukraine peace talks, POW swaps and ceasefire stalemate. Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have reached a critical juncture, and the world is watching as these two nations struggle to find common ground amidst the devastation of war. On July 23, 2025, Istanbul hosted the third round of negotiations, but the meeting lasted a mere 40 minutes, the shortest yet. Despite the brevity, one glimmer of hope emerged. Both sides agreed to continue prisoner swaps, a small but significant step forward in the humanitarian crisis. But here's where it gets complicated. While lives hang in the balance, a ceasefire remains elusive, and the prospect of a meeting between Presidents Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Vladimir Putin is still a distant dream. The talks, facilitated by Turkey, brought together high-ranking officials, including the chief of the Turkish General Staff, Metin Gurak, Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, and Intelligence Chief Ibrahim Kalin. Yet, the discussions highlighted the deep divisions between Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine's chief delegate, Rustem Umerov, emphasized progress on humanitarian issues but lamented the lack of movement toward ending hostilities. And this is the part most people miss. Ukraine has been pushing for a Zelensky-Putin meeting before the end of August, believing it could be a turning point. However, Russia insists that such a meeting should only occur to finalize an agreement, not to reopen negotiations. Russia's delegate, Vladimir Medinsky, reiterated Moscow's stance, proposing short-term ceasefires of 24 to 48 hours to recover bodies, a proposal Ukraine has rejected in favor of an immediate and prolonged ceasefire. This discrepancy raises a critical question: can these two nations ever align on the terms of peace, or will their differing priorities perpetuate the conflict? Meanwhile, the pressure is mounting, with U.S. President Donald Trump's ultimatum looming: heavy sanctions unless a deal is reached within 50 days. The humanitarian exchanges, including the agreed swap of at least 1,200 prisoners of war from each side, offer a rare moment of cooperation. Russia also claims to be addressing the issue of Ukrainian children allegedly abducted during the war, though Ukraine disputes the narrative. But here's the controversial part: while Russia denies wrongdoing, Ukraine insists that at least 19,000 children have been forcibly deported. This dispute underscores the complexity of the conflict and the challenges of verifying claims in a war zone. As the talks concluded, the Kremlin had already tempered expectations, acknowledging the stark differences between the two sides. The brief duration of the meeting, compared to previous sessions in May and June, reflects the growing impasse. Oleksandr Bevs, a Ukrainian delegate, noted that the proposed August meeting between Putin and Zelensky aligns with Trump's deadline, but Putin has previously dismissed Zelenskyy's legitimacy, citing Ukraine's martial law and unheld elections. Here's where it gets even more intriguing. Despite Trump's threats, sources close to the Kremlin suggest Putin remains unfazed, determined to continue the fight until the West engages on his terms. This raises a thought-provoking question for our audience: is Putin's strategy a calculated gamble, or is it a sign of desperation? And what does this mean for the future of Ukraine and global stability? As the world waits for the next move, one thing is clear: the path to peace is fraught with challenges, and every small step forward is a battle in itself. What do you think? Can Russia and Ukraine bridge their divides, or is this conflict destined to drag on? Share your thoughts in the comments below, we want to hear from you.